New week in the call-up, and we have a lot to talk about. We got to talk about Paul Skenes' big league debut. Of course, that one of the most anticipated we've seen in the sport really ever, but definitely in recent memory. We also have a lot of promotions. We have a Robert Gasser debut as well that we've been asking for a while, and he delivered. That was a lot of fun for the Brewers. Several promotions, and then we're going to talk about guys that just have really performed over the last month, go through each of those players, and I'm sure we'll touch on a few other things here and there. But there's definitely a lot that we're going to try to get through in this next hour.
Yeah, 100%. I'm excited about the debuts. Just kind of break into those because, yes, it's one of the most anticipated debuts ever. I think with the external factors that went into the Paul Skenes Major League debut, I could make a sound argument that it was the most anticipated pitching debut ever because of the social media factor, because of the girlfriend factor. Like, I remember the buzz about Steven Strasburg, and, 12-year-old me at the time knew to tune into that, but 12-year-olds now knew to tune into Paul Skenes, not to mention you've got the fact that, hey, his girlfriend has 5.5 million followers on Instagram and more on TikTok, and it's on Twitter now and it's on Instagram now.
It's just a different world than when, and it sounds crazy to say that because it's not that long ago.
But it is.
And I'm not trying to date ourselves because we're younger than most of the people in this space and a lot of the people that listen. So anytime we say we're old thing, people will just tell us to shut up, which I totally get because we're not old. But we are old enough to see a change in the way that media operates and the way that fans consume things. And there's never been more virality ever, right? There's a reason why, TikTok has become the force that it is, but even just social media in general, the views that you can get, the way that information can be spread so quickly. Yeah. I watched the debut at Central Park. It was so nice outside. I needed to go outside. I've just been cooped up way too much. I brought my laptop out there. I met some old high school friends that were in town, and one of them is a girl that is a soccer fan, doesn't care about baseball at all. And I'm watching the debut and it's, you're watching Livy Dunn's boyfriend pitch, right? Which is funny, but again, because of social media, because of the scale, it was the most anticipated debut, I think, just on a large scale. And I asked her, I said, if I said Paul Skenes, would you have known who that was? And she's like, honestly, yeah. It didn't come to my head immediately, but yeah. And I'm like, and this girl doesn't watch baseball at all. So, it's showing how you can understand why MLB is marketing the way that they are and why they're going to lean into the girlfriend thing, of course, too. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What I do think makes it a lot more a pressure for him, though, is, this is a different world. And nobody has debuted in the last 6, 7, 8 years with the media landscape and the social landscape being the way that it is across the internet with this much fanfare. So I really would say in terms of eyeballs from social media impressions, from whatever it may be, and just the overwhelming pressure of it, I don't know if we've really ever seen anything like that because of the virality of what he does. And I think if you look at that Jackson Holiday, Paul Skenes first AB, in the spring breakout game, I mean, that was appointment television for a lot of folks. They were talking about how many views that got on social, how many views it got on television. There's something special about Skenes and the way that he grabs people, but that also, I think, added to the pressure and the intrigue of the debut. And to me, I think we saw a lot of things that were as advertised, but I also saw a guy that was a little bit, a little adrenaline up. And I think that was why the fastball command, if you had one thing to kind of hit on here, fastball command wasn't good at all. It was probably as bad as I've seen it from him this year, period. I'm sure you could speak to it even better, but that was the worst command I've seen of his fastball. The splinker was still great. The slider was still great. He located both, but there was a lot of non-competitive fastballs from Skenes that we haven't really seen that this year. And I would chalk that up to a little bit of weather probably, but a little bit of just, I'm jazzed up and I'm fired up and I'm choking some baseballs at 102.
No, I chalk it up to adrenaline almost fully. I saw a teensy tremble in his hand in the first inning. I'm not sure if you caught that, but some of the close-ups, there was a tiny tremble in the first hitter that he was seeing.
He's a human being as much as he likes to make it seem like he's not.
Understandably so, because a lot of the things he does are not human. To speak to your virality point, Jackson Holiday versus Paul Skenes, the full at-bat, posted by Major League Baseball on YouTube, is 181,000 views. Just the at-bat, 2-minute, 13-second, full at-bat, uncut, 181,000 views. So that, again, speaks to the virality of him. Yeah,
And I
like
think it was millions, by the way, on TikTok.
millions. Yeah. There was a little tremble for sure. And that's okay. Fastball command was not where I know he wanted it. And it wasn't where we've seen it in the minor leagues. I think he probably has felt nowhere close to that level of adrenaline before, because the other huge moments that he was pitching in were Omaha, right? It was his 2 starts in Omaha. And
He's
at
better
the end
than
of the
everybody
day,
else there.
yeah, that's the thing. He went into that knowing that he was the best pitcher in America. This is the first time that maybe an ounce of self-doubt to who he is as a pitcher crept in. And the fact that he still punched 7 and he left with 1 run on the board, and the rest were the Pirates' bullpen fault, that was a terrible half inning. God, the line looks worse than it should.
Yeah.
But this was the first time that he might have felt that he wasn't surely the best player on the field. And you know what? He was still probably in the top 3, top 5. Like, this guy is immediately one of the best players on the field when he gets on it. Thing is, he's just not maybe the best at this point. And he may be in 2 years, but right now he's not. Having said that, I thought the splinker was awesome. And he used that as well as he possibly could. And he bullied the living crap out of Seiya Suzuki. 6 pitches, 2 punch outs in his first 2 ABs. That slider was working. The slider and the splinker, man, if he doesn't have the 4 seam, if he doesn't have 102 commanded, he can still punch out 7 and 4 1/3 a 1-run ball.
I think that's literally what we're seeing here, right? Because when he's fully stretched out and allowed to throw more, because he was at 84 pitches, gave up the 2 hits, they yank him, and that's where those runs end up coming in. Let's say he gets out of that jam, allows 1 earned run of those 2 runners that were aboard. He finishes 5 innings, 2 runs, 2 walks, 7 Ks. Let's say I'm not even going to give him a strikeout in that last inning. He gets out of it on ground balls. That's the games that I think you're going to get from Paul Skenes when his fastball command isn't good, or like when one of his pitches isn't there, or 2 of his pitches aren't there. That's what a phenomenal pitcher is. We talk about that all the time, right? Like, the great pitchers are the ones that when their stuff is not there or their command is not totally there, they still go out there, compete, and give you a chance to win. And the only reason why we didn't get to really get to see Skenes do it was because he didn't get to fight through the jam, and 84 pitches was already 9 more than he had thrown this year at the highest.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. No, I mean, like, that's the thing. What are you at your 50th percentile? And I think we saw Paul Skenes at his 50th percentile here, which should have you salivating and should have you fully expecting that he becomes one of the best pitchers in baseball. That was awesome to see. That, like, he should have been able to sleep very soundly after that game, especially after the rain delay and like that 10-9 win. That game was all sorts of stupid in the best way.
I thought that was the most like insane game of the year for when you consider all of the factors. I thought it was one of the most insane games of the year. The other debut, a little bit less fanfare, but honestly, I was almost as excited in a lot of ways, just especially after meeting Robert Gasser. And we had him on the show. If you have not caught that interview, go back and check that out from spring training. He's just a chill dude. Like, I hate that description for people, but like he's just a chill guy that is so easy to root for. He looks like you'd imagine, like the long hair, like relaxed guy, just goes out there, gets outs, even keel, very confident, but in a cool way that you have to be, that we talk about, similar to Kobe Mayo. And it's just an easy guy to root for. We were talking about how I just don't want to see him. Neither of us wanted to see him pitch at all in AAA this year. He doesn't quite make the team. He misses some time with injury and then comes back and, was all right in AAA as he starts to get his feet back under him. Had a great start against Norfolk where he strikes out 7 across 4 and then gets that big league debut against the Cardinals, who have really struggled against lefties, but it doesn't matter. You're making your big league debut. You got to make pitches, and that's still a Cardinals lineup that can get to you if you're not making pitches. 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 1 hit by pitch, 4 Ks. Confident, filled up the zone, 79 pitches, 55 strikes. It just looked like the Robert Gasser that we were clamoring for, that we felt like could make this Brewers team, that's in first place, by the way, make this Brewers team more competitive and make that rotation more sound. I thought it was fascinating that he threw the curveball as much as he did. Ton of confidence with it, though. Threw 36 of them, 24 for a strike. He had the four-seamer going. He had a sinker going, mixed in a couple change-ups that I know he's been working on. But it was great timing. Like we just talked to Kobe Mayo about his AB against him, and he was saying how he's funky and around the zone and, it can be a unique AB. And then we saw the results against a very experienced, I know not great, but experienced Cardinals lineup.
I got a text about command issues in AAA when it came to Robert Gasser. I said, there are no such thing as command issues with Robert Gasser. The thing that you saw was the ABS in play. And AAA walk numbers are always going to be inflated from, I think, what they are going to be at the big league level. And that is a total reversal from what we saw even 2-3 years ago. When Dylan Cease came up to make his debut, his walk numbers were elevated in the big leagues because he was nibbling. Like he was kind of scared of attacking in the zone when in, AAA, AA, he was not. Now you're going to see walk rates go down in Major League Baseball because they are throwing to a crap zone in AAA. This ABS system is not good, especially Tuesday through Thursday. When you're making a start during the week in AAA, it is not going to be good for you as a pitcher. So that guy is not a 4 walks per 9 guy. Now, he's not faced 20 hitters and, get 18 outs type of guy, but like he can be when he's at his best. And I thought that he was at his best for Milwaukee against a struggling lineup in St. Louis. But at the end of the day, man, you're not going to see this guy beat himself. And I thought this was the perfect example of him not beating himself and giving him a chance to win every single plate appearance against a team that was really spiraling. And he pounced.
Yep. And attacked them. And talk about the confidence, right? This is a guy. It's easier when you're Paul Skenes to attack hitters. And even then, you're still, it's a little bit scary. You're making your big league debut. Yeah. Gasser had a lot of confidence in the stuff. And I think that was what really stood out to me and filled it up pretty much across the board. 70% strike rate overall, got the chase when he needed it, got the weak contact when he needed it. It's a unique mix too with the 2 fastballs where he can get the ground balls. He can buzz it at the top when he needs to. He can do the things that he needs to do. And I think the tandem now of working with a William Contreras who can pull those strikes up at the bottom when he wants to wear out the bottom and I think help him just steal some more strikes here and there. Gasser's the type of guy that can abuse that. And I think he might, you mentioned just the strike zone aspect. I think that works in Gasser's favor for sure with the way that he likes to clip, and get guys kind of stretching out an extra inch or two. And then just having one of the better catchers now, which is crazy to say about Contreras, but he is working with one of the better catchers in baseball now. I think that's going to bode well for a guy like Gasser, who I think will continue to progress at the big league level. I feel really good about him being a number 4 starter at the big league level for a long time. And I think that he could give you flashes of more of that, but a really quality 4 starter that the Brewers just need in the worst way right now. Sure. And that's the kind of guy that's going to keep them afloat when they, we know the offense can play. We know the defense is good. We know the bullpen's good. They needed a guy like Gasser. And look, he might have some hiccups here and there. The long ball can creep in here and there, and especially in Milwaukee. But I think at the very least, he's going to give you something in the 4s at the end of this year, eat enough innings, and give you plenty of quality starts. And I think he can be better than that. But I think there's a really good chance that he's at least that.
100%.
You want to get into the promotions or performers? Probably promotions quickly, right?
Promotions quickly and then performers, I think.
Okay. So unfortunately, I didn't get to go to Brooklyn and catch Brandon Sproat before he got promoted. I did get to see Clifford. And honestly, I didn't even really want to see Clifford in Brooklyn anymore. It's so stupid out there with the way that the wind blows in. It is a graveyard sometimes. And I don't know if the park factors will fully depict it because certain days, I don't care what the park factors are. It's the worst place. It's Florida State League bad. When the wind's really coming in off the water out there at Coney Island, it's Florida State League bad, maybe worse. Then there's other days where it's not as much and, the drier air, it'll go. And I think later in the summer, it kind of evens it out. But this time of year, it's brutal, especially change of seasons, windy. My allergies stink too. But it's just one of those things where like I'm watching him put some good swings on balls and he's the kind of guy that can hit it through the wind. But like I don't want to even have to worry about park factor, things like that. I know he's going to swing and miss a bunch. I know he's going to hit a bunch of home runs. I want to see that in the AA level in a better environment. I am sad I don't get to see Sproat, but Mets fans need to be really excited. I think that you're getting both of those guys promoted. Sproat really earned it with the way that he's looked, starting to throw a lot more strikes. Clifford, it was a little slow out of the gate, has been really good over the stretch. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets just wanted to get him out of there. Yeah. Like, I think they've probably said, hey, he just keeps elevating and, these balls are sometimes dying in right field. Like, let's just go get him somewhere where, he can be rewarded for when he elevates and barrels baseballs, because it's got to really compound when you're striking out and then you finally clip one and it dies at the track because the wind is just howling inwards.
For sure. It's a mental thing, man. Like, they probably looked at him and said, I'm with you. Like, let's reward you. But also it's like, we don't want you to be bummed out with your results because we've got a, 920 expected batting average. And this is a homer. And like, there are a couple of ballparks where you just hear EV and launch angle. And it's like, how did that not get out? Or how did that get out? Greensboro, it's how did that get out? Like 88 at 27 degrees or something. It's like, that's not supposed to get out. But then you hit a ball like Morrell hit to dead center at PNC on Saturday against Skenes. It was like 106 at 28 degrees to dead center, and it didn't get out.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does that not happen? And to a subdued level, that could be Ryan Clifford too. It's like, hey, I just hit this ball 105 at a favorable launch angle, and it didn't get out. Like, this stinks. I don't want that to happen. They're probably saying, hey, for the sake of your mentals, we need to get you to a place where that is actually going to get out.
Yeah. And he's going to be 21, and I think it's time, like, all right, let's see if he sinks or swims. He's striking out at a 32% clip. He's walking at a really high clip too. And I think that's part of it as well. It's like, I think he's been selective. Pitchers have been careful with him. And it's kind of at the point now where it's like, all right, let's see him get challenged a bit more. I mean, he's walking at a 23.5% clip. So, like, I think seeing more strikes in AA, pitchers that aren't going to be afraid of going right after him, it might result in a really tough start. But it's also going to allow him to see what's working, see what's not, and not be able to kind of rest on the laurels of punishing mistakes and walking a ton, which is what he's been doing. He's at a 400 on base, but he's not slugging at all so far. So I think he'll be incentivized to be more aggressive within the zone. He's been great in terms of making decent swing decisions. I think he's been passive, which is wild, because the past it was like, okay, I want to see him be a bit more selective, and now he's kind of gone too far the other way. So it's an interesting situation there, and I think they want to get him to AA where there's a little bit more control over what you're trying to do in a vacuum. With Sproat, do you feel like the zone changes a ton from high A to double? Not really, right? Maybe a little bit.
I don't think so. Like, I think the quality of pitching just goes up, and you'll start to see the corners be a bit more finicky, because in high A, I think the corners are more often rewarded consistently than in AA. So yeah, I mean, like, I guess it could change, but frankly,
hitters are probably more selective.
Yeah, well, and he's also just going to a place where, like, more pitchers are to his level. Like, if you're one of the better pitchers in high A, I feel like umpires are not going to be in your favor, because I don't know, like, you're clipping corners, and at the end of the day, it's just weird. But I think he's going to a place where he's kind of meeting his match a bit more than in Brooklyn.
And I'm really interested to see what it looks like, because yes, he's been dominant, 107 ERA over 6 starts, but I mean, we're also looking at 25 and a third innings, 16 walks. Yeah, only 12 hits. Yeah, only 1 home run.
Yeah, but
that's a lot of walks, and he's going to need to cut that down. If you look at the last 3 outings, it's been a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde from the command perspective. You got 5 innings, 1 walk, scoreless, 5 Ks. Then you've got 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 4 walks, 8 Ks. And then the last time out against Rome, he goes 5 2/3, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 8 Ks. So, I mean, that, if he can get more to the 3 walk range, he's going to miss enough bats. He's going to get a lot of weak contact, and I think he's going to succeed. What was encouraging about that is he also went 90 pitches, which is the most we've seen so far this year. And, the more pitches, the more likelihood of walking guys and things like that. So to go 90 pitches, only walk 3, and, turn over the lineup, go 5 2/3. I think that was a great start to promote him to AA on. And by the way, while throwing the most pitches of the year, he also averaged the highest velocity. Sproat averaged 97 on the fastball that last time out. You always love seeing guys get stretched out further and throw harder. It was 76 pitches 3 starts ago, 84 2 starts ago, and then 90 the last time out. So it's all about the command. It's just the classic. Biggest opponent for Sproat's going to be Sproat, but the stuff is crazy, and it's some of the best stuff you're going to see when he's around the zone. So his AA debut will be fun to watch.
100%. Last thing real quick on the EVs and launch angle, I wanted to make sure that I got this right. 113 at 47 degrees was a homer for Oneil Cruz yesterday. Did you see that?
No, I actually did not see that one.
He hit a ball 112.7 at 47 degrees. I think it peaked at 183 feet, and it got out. It got like a row deep and right. It was absolutely bizarre.
Freak.
Craziest thing
I think a ball like that might not even get out at Brooklyn on the wrong day.
No, I mean, but dude, like 47 should never get out.
I'd love to see like what the highest launch angle home run is. That's got to be up there.
That's got to be up there. It had the highest apex of any ball in Pittsburgh in the StatCast era. 183 was the highest hit ball in the history of PNC in the StatCast era, which is 2016 and later. So
That's
crazy.
Awesome.
Crazy.
One more promotion, Reggie Crawford to AAA. I mean, so I don't know what their plan is, the Giants. Remember, Reggie Crawford drafted as a two-way guy. Also, we had on the show, really, really cool guy also. It's an interesting situation because I agree with the decision to shut down the hitting, focus on the pitching. I know he's coming back from TJ. So are they easing him into it? Is that why he's been mostly operating as a reliever, in short spurts? Or are they just focused on, hey, we're going to make this guy a reliever now and fast track him to the big leagues? Or yes, we're going to, I guess C would be, we're going to fast track him to the big leagues as a reliever and then eventually stretch him out and kind of Jordan Hicks him into being a starter. I don't know what the plan is. I think it's wild to just get him all the way up to AAA already. Why put him in the PCL? Like, what's the point? Why not just keep him in AA? And especially if you want to stretch him out. The only thing I can think of is they want to get him potentially in the big league bullpen sooner rather than later and just finish his development there. In terms of the stuff, I mean, he's been nasty. 19 punchies and 9 2/3. I know there's been some runs on the board, but so far, I mean, you look at the stuff. I mean, that's big league wipeout stuff. His fastball is averaging 97, overpowering hitters with it. And he's got a pretty good breaking ball that's inconsistent, but the changeup has actually looked really solid when it's around the zone. But that fastball alone, he can just bully hitters. I think they're fast tracking him as a reliever, and that's okay. He's going to be a big league reliever for you, and maybe you hope down the line you can move him into the rotation. It's just wild when you drafted this guy in the first round
2 years ago,
very long ago, and we're already here. We're also looking at Will Bednar, who they drafted in the first round, who I think just got up to high A for the first time. So it's just a weird dichotomy. And I know Crawford way more talented, things like that. It's interesting to see how they handle these different types of situations. But I think they see a guy that has the stuff to go get outs at the big league level very soon with a few little twinges and, a few little tweaks. And I think that they feel as though maybe the AAA staff is better for him. Maybe that's part of it. It's just fascinating that he's doing it in the PCL and that they're fast tracking him like this off of TJ, no longer doing the two-way thing. They've drafted better and pretty well over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I don't have a ton of faith in Giants development at this point. And that's why I'm a little bit wary of the way this is being handled. And we'll just have to wait and see. And I'm definitely rooting for Crawford, especially, with his story and just with his talent.
How many minor league innings do you think Reggie Crawford has thrown?
I mean, 18, 20.
So 28 2/3. But at the end of the day, like
nothing.
28 2/3 before getting to AAA. 2 weeks ago, I would have said, oh, he's coming out of the bullpen because they're looking to build him back up slowly, and he'll probably have 2-inning relief outings, and then he'll make some starts at the end of this year. I thought this year was going to be entirely in AA with Richmond. The fact that they moved him to AAA in mid-May makes me think that they're kind of jumping ship on the starting pitching thing. And they just want to see him develop into a closer or a setup guy because you have one of the best in baseball. Watching Camilo Doval on Sunday was utterly insane. Like punch out at 102. When you've got one of the better closers in baseball and you're, yes, first round pick, hefty price tag. But when you see a guy that this year, when they clearly want to compete, can put together one of the better 8-9 tandems in all of baseball, I understand the idea of just jumping the idea and doing it, jumping the concept of him being a starting pitcher and doing it. But at the end of the day, man, I think they were probably frightened by Bednar being as brutal as he has been, and Crawford not throwing as much as they wish he did, and Carson Wisenhunt, yeah, he's in triple, but Wisenhunt does not look good at all right now.
He had one nasty outing. Did he flounder on the next one?
He's got like a 7.5 right now.
Oh yeah. So he had a nice 3-game stretch, and then woof, 6 earned runs last time out at Salt Lake.
That's the thing, man. Like, they're whiffing on pitchers right now. So I think if they see big league closer type, they're just going to lean into the closer type thing and not try and shoehorn that guy into a starting pitching role.
And, you know, I mean, that's kind of what we talked about when we were talking Crawford. I'm like, okay, yeah, the 2-way thing's cool, but okay, the 2-way is a platoon power bat and a reliever. Because that's kind of what I saw setup guy and platoon power bat. And maybe if he focuses on starting, or focuses on pitching, you can develop him as a starter. But I think it's wild that they're doing that. They're fast tracking him as a reliever after nixing the hitting thing. So I think it's a little bit of maybe an indictment on you know, where they're at with Crawford at this point. And not to say again that he's not going to be a good big leaguer, and if he's a really good setup man, that's great. But I think it's clear, like, I think their assessment of him may have changed a little bit, whether they admit it or not, based on the behavior that we're seeing.
Can I also ask you, have you ever seen a starting pitcher look like that? Like, I've seen bullpen arms that are huge, but in terms of a starting pitcher being carved out of marble,
I'm sure there's an answer, but I mean, not a lot.
The guys that I know that are physical specimens in the starting rotation are like Jake Arrieta, who was a Pilates guy. Like, he was doing aerobics in the outfield. And, you know, even a guy like Skenes is so fluid. There are relievers I've seen, like Jimmy Cordero rolls up his sleeves and like pops the biceps. I've seen biceps on relievers. I don't see bulging biceps and shoulders on starting pitchers. I really don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Like, I think they may think that, like, yeah, while his build is otherworldly, it's not conducive to 170 innings.
Yeah. It could be conducive to closer stuff, though, with that fastball.
Exactly.
And so, you know, if you end up and that's the thing, is we talk about the tipping point of prospect value. If you can be a top end closer, that's close to middle rotation value. The thing is it drops off real quick. If you're, you know, a 7th inning guy, that's nowhere near the value of even like a 5-starter that can consistently be a 5-starter. But the top relievers, those are the guys that can enter that echelon of 55 future value. And maybe that's what they're hoping to squeeze out of here with Crawford. One other quick note on the Giants side: Rainer Arias and Walker Martin both have not played yet this year. And I was getting some questions about Walker Martin, another guy that we were really excited to see the debut. Both should be playing in the complex right now. Arias jacked up his wrist laying out for a ball. It's just a sprain, but it's the same wrist that wiped out his season last year. So they're obviously going to err on the side of caution there. And then Walker Martin, according to the Giants farm director, is dealing with a hamstring issue. So, you know, teams are going to be incredibly careful with that. Martin, very springy athlete. So that is something to monitor. You know, we didn't see him make his debut last year. I don't know if that was injury related, but it was weird to just not see him play at all. And then we haven't seen him now again in the early parts of this year. Martin tested as one of the most explosive athletes in the draft. Sometimes those explosive guys, their muscles can't quite keep up until they kind of get acclimated. And it seems like that might be what's going on with Walker Martin. So just an update on those two guys, because those are two of the guys I'm most excited to watch this year at the lower levels. And we'll see them. They'll be back, but clearly they're going to be careful with them.
Giants need a shot in the ass in terms of the farm system, man. Like, I don't know. Last year, I think we went in with very high expectations for the Giants farm, and they were underwhelming every single stop, man. And I'm thinking about, you know, even guys like what Luis Matos in 2022 was underwhelming. And, you know, Elliot Ramos looked like a top 100 prospect for a time. And now he's struggling to find an everyday big league spot. Hell, even a big league bench spot. Marco Luciano don't even need to like dive into that full bore. The Giants need a prospect hit, and feels like Arias and Martin could be two of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness for Patrick Bailey, right? And the reason why he's valuable is he's just a defensive savant. I mean, he's been swinging it better this year overall, but there's definitely something to be said about the development with the Giants. We've talked about that, and I think it continues to be a question. And Bryce Eldridge is going to be another example of that, where if we know how talented he is, we know how freaky he can be. If it doesn't come together for him too, then we really got to start to have this conversation of what the hell is going on with these Giants prospects for the most part. Although Kyle Harrison doing well, that's nice. And I think that's exciting. But again, that was more of a scouting success, I think, than a developmental success, because he's so unique angle wise and things like that. But yeah, I'm excited to monitor that this year and see where, especially with the Walker Martin, Sereno Arias, is the talent that they have at the lower levels. This is where you continue to be able to key in on the development and say, has anything changed?
Yep.
All right, Jack, the floor is yours. You've compiled the names. We also have the short form YouTube video that goes out every single Monday evening. Check that out. That's linked in the episode description. Probably some overlap on names there. That's been really fun. And again, I've appreciated the feedback on that, because it takes some time between me and our editor extraordinaire, Peyton, but it's really fun. I think it's a cool way to keep people up to date. So if it's something you enjoy, please be sure to let us know in the comments of that video. And that also helps us kind of boost it a little bit too, and get some more views on that. But I also wanted to keep it around 10 minutes and under. So there's always names I don't get to talk about, or names that I talked about the week prior. So it's way more fun to be able to hit on all of the names that performed everywhere on these longer episodes.
Yeah, 100%. We are, 6 weeks into the Major League and AAA season. We're about 5 weeks into the rest of the minor leagues, so double, high A, single. And then the complex just got going, so I didn't highlight anybody in the complex. But we just kind of viewed this as an opportunity to give some of the best hitters and pitchers so far by the traditional metrics their shine. And there are not top 100 prospects on this list. Like James Wood is on this list. Okay. That's because James Wood has been objectively one of the best players in minor league baseball, regardless of what he's doing. So we are going to save James Wood for a little bit. I want to start with the guy that's hitting .439 in 26 games right now. We're going to do hitters, then pitchers. Jacob Wilson of the Oakland A's has been one of, if not the best hitters in all of minor league baseball to this point. Double-A Midland, Triple-A Las Vegas, 26 games. He's slashing .439, .460, .664. He's got 15 doubles in 26 games, 3 homers, 21 driven in 113 plate appearances. He's punched 11 times. That's what, an 8% K rate, 9% K rate? Jacob Wilson was lauded as a bat-to-ball guy, but he was a shock when he went in the top 10 last year. I think Oakland saw a guy that has a tremendously high floor, and they're just going to lean into that.
Yeah, and I think the floor is as advertised, right? And that's the important part, because players like this can be a little concerning if the floor is not exactly as advertised, meaning like he's not hitting 300 out of the gate, then the deficiencies become incredibly evident, because you're not going to get a ton of power. So if you're not hitting for an extremely high average, all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, where are we getting value here? He's a solid defender at short, but he's not the fleetest of foot. Like, where does the value come from? So for him to be this proficient bat to ball wise is huge. It's absolutely huge. That said, I was excited to talk about him because I'm curious where you stand. Like, has your evaluation changed at all based on what Jacob Wilson has done through these 30? How many games did you say it was?
26.
At 26 games, he's running an in-zone contact rate of 95%. That's insane, right? But at the same time, we kind of knew that he was going to do some things like this. Again, maybe not to this degree, but I still have the same questions I had before. I just think with less concern about what happens if the hit tool isn't as advertised. That to me is answered. The hit tool, I think, is as advertised in every single way. And, going from Grand Canyon to Double-A and now Triple, and really not missing a beat contact-wise, testament to the hit tool. Again, it was the easy hit plus hit tool, but it needs to be like a 70 for him to produce. It's been a 70 so far. Has your perspective changed on him at all because the fact that it's clearly a 70 so far, or is it still for you kind of the same questions too about, is he going to be able to impact the ball enough to be an everyday player?
Yeah, no, I've got questions. And what's your take on him defensively at short? I My understanding, my at least previous understanding, was average at best at short.
Yeah, it's a little better than I thought. I think he can be an above average shortstop.
Okay, so above average shortstop that, probably falls into tier 2 in the bat to ball guys at the major league level. I think that's a valuable player, but define value. And I think that's the question that you're asking me right now. And I don't know if there's a 4-win player there. Like, that might be the 100th percentile outcome, is a 4-win player, a fringe all-star, and the guy that, where the edgy baseball fan is going to say, well, that middle infield duo of Zach Geloff and Jacob Wilson in Sacramento is pretty fun, man. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, does that do it for you as a top 70, top 60 prospect in all of baseball? I think the answer is no. But the way to force yourself into that conversation is to keep hitting, keep hitting, keep hitting. So if the ceiling is 4 wins, but the floor is 2.5, that's a player that I'm really interested in. I just thought maybe the floor was 1 and the ceiling was 4.
And the floor, I still think, might not be 2.5 just yet, because again, if everything's on the ground and he's not slugging, it becomes difficult. A lot of those seeing eye singles don't become hits at the big league level because everybody's got range.
He's not fast enough for this, and he's not fast enough to beat him out.
So I look at, because if you look at like 75th percentile exit velocity, which is a little bit better for these contact oriented guys, and contact rate, you're not going to be surprised by the group of big leaguers he'd be, put with. But this is also against AA, AAA competition. It's also a small sample, but just for the sake of conversation, it puts him, of course, in the Arias bucket. It puts him in the bucket with Nick Madrigal, Stephen Kwan, and then Geraldo Perdomo, who is even lower on the EV side. In terms of where his EVs stack up, slightly more than Kwan, slightly more than Madrigal so far this year, and slightly less than Arias. So, again, but those guys are doing it against big league competition. I'm assuming that he sustains that. The middle ground there might be a nice little area where there's enough production, but the difference for Kwan this year has been he's elevating more than he ever has, and he's backspinning balls more than he ever has, and that's why we're seeing him slug more prior to the injury. And it's been clear, like, that was a focus for him, and he's doing it. You don't necessarily have to have the EVs bump, but you need to have a path that's conducive to backspin and lift to the pull side. It's really hard to have that while also being proficient bat to ball wise, because usually if you're proficient bat to ball wise, you're flatter and you're more, just contact oriented, line drives, ground balls, all that good stuff. So far this season, Jacob Wilson's got a ground ball rate of 51%. I think it's hard to succeed that way if you're also aggressive, and he's also been pretty aggressive. So I'd say that I feel I like Jacob Wilson more than I did at the draft, because he's doing exactly what he did in college professionally now. But I still have the same concerns of it's on the ground too much and he never walks. Like Arias, I think that's where he can run into some trouble sometimes too. But Kwan, I feel like he's got the whole balance there. Sub 20 chase rate, all that good stuff. I think that takes a lot of pressure off of the ability to find gaps all the freaking time.
So the closest thing may be Madrigal in that case, because Madrigal doesn't walk. Having said that, the start to this year has fully convinced me that he is not the next Nick Madrigal. And like, that's a really good thing, because I think out of the draft, you were worried that he could turn into the next Nick Madrigal, where it's like, oh, he never strikes out. Okay, but does he have a 590 OPS? Mm-hmm. And I don't think the answer is that, because I think he's going to hit more than that. And he does enough to provide other value. Like Nick Madrigal is an average defensive second baseman at best. Yeah. And you're looking at a guy in Jacob Wilson who is an average defensive shortstop, you're saying.
And that's I'm glad you brought that up. Kwan's the only guy that has major defensive utility.
Yeah. And
he's doing it still in corner outfield. He's elite there, but I mean, Wilson being an everyday shortstop, and if he's above average there, that's where it's at, right? Like he could be a 750 OPS guy that hits for a ton of hits for a great average, and that's why I want to see him be a little bit more selective, draw more walks, and be more of that Kwan profile. But even if he's not, if he's a 300, 330, 370 guy and plays good defense and never punches, he's a bottom of the order everyday shortstop, that's a good piece. And I think that's kind of what the floor looks like now. And I still think you can dream on it. He's 6'3". He might still have this clicking point of more power that comes along later to the pull side. And like, again, we're seeing Quan have this epiphany from a power perspective this year that I think is very legit. I don't think he's going to hit more than a handful of home runs,
10, yeah.
but it's allowing him to slug way more. And it doesn't take a lot for these guys to then, slug way more because they're already hitting a ton of singles. So I think that's the path. And I think he's got a lot of time to find that because he's already so good at what he's good at, right? Like seeing that translate is huge because it's hard to work on tapping into more game power when you're still trying to find that elite bat to ball that you had in college. He doesn't need to search for that at all. It's there, translated immediately. And that's probably why I'm more confident in him than I was before, but I still have the same questions and we still need to see the same things.
Got you. Wilson is probably the one that we were going to spend longest on.
Yeah,
because we really have yet to dive into him.
I did the bonus episode today that we put out, and I was going to talk about Wilson on that, and I said, not going to do that, actually. I want to save that. Jack mentioned he wanted to talk about him, and I want to go deeper into it with Jack on the episode. So that was the one guy I had like circled, and we'll fly through the rest.
Perfect. Yeah, next guy is Mike Boeve with Milwaukee, and he was in High A Wisconsin, Double A Biloxi. At this point, 33 games. He's the only other guy hitting above 400. So you set the Williams line. You got Wilson and Mike Boeve. Also, shout out the Indianapolis Indians lineup. I think it's 3 of the top 8 in batting average right now with Ji-Hwan Bae, who just qualified, Jake Lamb, and Nick Gonzales, who, by the way, like had a 2 RBI single in that Skenes debut. Like, Nick looks different, and I think Major League Baseball fans finally saw that in the first couple of games, especially watching Skenes. I've been telling you like every day, hey, Nick's different. And the amount of DMs that I got from, people that are just like, is Nick really different? I'm like, yes, he is. Mm-hmm. It's good to see Nick like up there. I think he stays there at this point. And Nick Gonzales is a damn good hitter, and he really figured it out this offseason, I think.
I think so. And the way he works, and it's just been cool to see it starting to come together for him and realizing, okay, maybe I'm not the plus hit tool guy that it looked like I was, but you know what? I can run into baseballs. Yeah. And he's got the Mike Trout set up a little bit now. Yes. And he's elevating and he's hitting the ball hard. And his approach, I think, is more conducive to, I don't think he ever was used to having blue zones, right? And I think he's realizing, okay, elevated heat, similar to Mike Trout, it's kind of affecting me. I can't just swing at everything. And because he used to be able to get to everything. Right. It's a little different at this level. Seeing him lean into his approach more and leverage that, he's still got a good feel to hit. And it just seems like he's finally figured out, now that he's faced adversity for the first time in his baseball life, he kind of figured out how to come out the other side. And I really hope it continues, but he definitely looks different. I'm with you.
100%. Mike Boeve has yet to face adversity in his baseball life, I don't think. No. 33 games. He's slashing 408, 493, 558 with 8 doubles, 3 homers, and in 144 plate appearances, 21 walks drawn, 20 strikeouts in 144 plate appearances. So this guy's running a K rate right around 15%. Is that right? 14%? 14% for Mike Boeve. I mean, could he get up by the end of this year if they need him?
If they needed him, but I don't know if they're going to need another infielder anytime soon. We're already still trying to figure out where the heck Tyler Black fits in. Yeah. But Boeve, he's been getting run at first, third. I got to do some more defensive dive, especially now that he's hitting the way that he's hitting. And he just turned 22 last week. What amazes me is left-handed hitter. What's the one thing that you're going to get a lot of? Changeups from righties.
Yeah.
He's 8 for 24 against changeups this year.
18 for 24?
Yes. 18 for 24.
So he's hitting 750. What are the extra base hits?
6 of them.
Oh my gosh.
He lives in the zone forever. Forever. His bat's in the zone forever. And so when it's a changeup, he can still just hold it back and catch it a little bit further out front and drive it. He's hitting fastballs really well. He's got an end zone contact rate of 93%. Bove's a hitter. I think there's no doubt in that. And another guy that mid-major, okay, is it going to translate? So far, it's translating. And he hits the ball hard enough too, 90th of 103. So when you've got those kind of contact rates too, this guy could be a pretty well-rounded and fun hitter.
Yeah, 100%. Deyvison de los Santos, another guy that, I mean,
he's been one of the best hitters in the minor leagues, right?
Yeah, he's got 11 homers, dude. I think that only trails Loper Fito and Kobe Mayo right now. There might be a couple guys with 12, actually. But Deyvison de los Santos with Arizona, 32 games, slashing 359, 406, 664. He's leaning into the homer thing. 4 doubles, 11 homers. You never see that kind of separation. But you know what? This guy's elevating and celebrating. 11 homers, 26 driven in, 30 punch outs in 138 plate appearances. So the K rate is lower than I think we were expecting it to be. And this guy, man, like, did you see 360 coming? Did you see 11 homers coming in 30 games? I don't think so.
No, not at all. And what's cool is, I mean, you can extrapolate it even further to like the second half of last year. So if you go to like his last 80 games, sitting 325, 356, 613 with a 24% K rate. Guy doesn't walk. I mean, that's for sure. And he's aggressive and he hits the ball really hard. And I like that you mentioned the elevating thing because the ground ball rate's still slightly high, but he's cut down the ground ball rate significantly. And that we talked about that with the swing mechanic adjustments. And I think that's the reason why the Guardians took a chance on him is he did make some adjustments mechanically and started to really hit his stride in the second half of last year. And as a result of some of those mechanical adjustments that I know I'd done a Twitter thread on a little bit further back when I think he was selected in the Rule 5.
Yeah.
It allowed him to elevate more clearly, and it allowed him to make more contact. And he's been doing both of those, and it's trickled back into this year as well. This guy was really hyped up for a reason. I mean, he's putting up crazy numbers as one of the younger players at each stop. And talk about prospect fatigue as a Rule 5 guy and being aggressively pushed and having a lot of hype and disappointing and then being good again. And just a lot of variance and changes and discussion around him. He's 20. He doesn't turn 21 until the end of June. And he's got a ton of success under his belt now at the AA level. It's a unique yellow flag filled profile offensively, but it's hard to argue against the results. And I'm sure the D-backs are thrilled to have him back.
And it's kind of nice that nobody's going to shove him into big league plate appearances this year.
Yeah.
Like he'll ball out in Amarillo. He'll go to Reno. He'll be in very, very hitter-friendly environments. And when the time is right, he'll find his way into that Arizona lineup. But the time wasn't right at the beginning of this year. The time was right for him to mash and double. Time was not right for him to be honestly, he would have been the 5 or 6 hitter in that Guardians lineup if they did put him in. And it's like, oh, he's got power. We need power. He's in the 5 hole. Although I think Vogt is better than that. So good decision by the Guardians not rostering that guy and forcing him into a situation where he would be blown up. And good for Deyvison de los Santos kind of taking that on the chin and thriving right away.
Yep. Absolutely. I think that's a great point too. It's a lot of moving parts for him. So to be playing the way that he's playing, I think is saying a lot.
Talk to me about Jay Allen with the Cincinnati Reds. I know Jay Allen was a guy that had some prospect intrigue, but then he was dealing with the injury bug for a while. Is that right?
Yeah.
Jay
Allen, I mean, as much as anybody, I would say.
So he's back with high A Dayton. I think he spent all 21 games with Dayton. In 21 games, Allen is slashing 342, 457, and 115-point jump to OBP, 632 on the slug, 6 homers, 13 driven in. He's 7 for 9 in the stolen base department as well. So is this just a healthy Jay Allen that we're seeing?
I think so. Look, there's hit tool questions for sure, but we knew that when they drafted a 3-sport athlete that at the 30th pick, we knew that. He flies. He's got juice. And the thing was, we weren't seeing the juice because he was so banged up. He's going to swing and miss, like I said. But the fact that the approach is where it's at, too, extremely selective now and in a good way, making good swing decisions. And he's running into balls. He's got a 90th just shy of 106. And, dude, I like the swing a lot, where it's coming and where it's at now. He can get a little bit steep to the ball, but when everything's on time, and especially it's a pitch that he can pull, it's really smooth, and it's fun to watch him catch one pull side. He can hit the ball really hard. You mentioned the stolen bases. You mentioned just kind of everything that he's doing so far. That pull side power is plus. And to have the speed, pull side power, already making good swing decisions, there's a lot of reasons for Reds fans to be excited. He's still just 21. He'll be 21 all season long. So, I mean, there's still plenty of variance to this profile, but we're clearly seeing that when healthy, This is not an Austin Hendrick situation. I know Hendrick had even more hype as a top 15 pick, but this is a guy that has the talent to put up good numbers when he's healthy, and it's just going to be, does he hit enough at the highest level or at the upper minors?
Yeah.
This isn't like an Austin Hendrick situation where the second he goes pro, it's never there.
Yeah.
We're already seeing what could be there.
Well, he just lost his buddy in Dayton. Rhett Lauder went up to Chattanooga. By the way, Rhett Lauder, another promotion. He was fine. He was good, not great in his debut at Chattanooga. And I watched that Chattanooga broadcast is like impossible for me to watch, man. Like it's crazy to me that somehow it's glitchy in real time. Like that camera feed is absurdly bad in Chattanooga. So
how does that happen? How does that happen?
I don't know. Like there needs to be a vetting process in that regard. I see some where it's just like Lynchburg. I watched what is it? Lynchburg doesn't have a home TV feed, or if they do, it's like shot from the third base side. Just
oh my gosh,
down.
Yeah. When I was trying to watch Tugboat, it was brutal.
It's no good, man. And even like Ralphie Velasquez, you can't get a good look at that. Like, why can't we get a good look at minor league baseball players?
It's really not that hard too. I'm not saying there needs to be like 1080p. Whatever.
No, man.
But like I'm with you. It's so laggy with the Chattanooga setup, and then and even low A, sure, but Lynchburg, like, what's the point of even having a camera if I got to watch from the dugout, like, and like elevated from the dugout angle? Like it's silly. That's one of the things that I'll never understand. I wish, I've told you in the past, like, it's my dream that we could just like guest spot broadcast one single game at some of these lower levels and set up shop. Cause like, I feel like if we had a couple video guys, we could set up shop and make it look pretty clean. Sure. I just wish that teams cared enough. And I understand that the money's not there and things like that, but
for sure,
I don't think it's that much money to have a half decent setup.
No, man, and even a 4-camera setup. Hell, you can do 2-camera setup, right?
We had it on the Cape.
Like I know, man. I know. Like there are high school games that have better productions than AA right now that I'm watching. So, but Rhett Lauder is up in Chattanooga. Jay Allen's going to be in Dayton for a much longer time, and that's going to be a good thing because, like you mentioned, he's got plenty of time. He's still a young 21 years old.
And build on it. Yeah, Lauder, 5 innings, 3 runs, 1 walk, 5 Ks. Standard. I think those are like going to be like his standard like meh days, like we were talking about with Skenes. Like I think with Lauder, those will be like his meh days in AA. And maybe that's not as good in the big leagues. He's not going to have as much margin for error, but I think this is just that was a meh day for Rhett Lauder, and it's still, darn near a quality start.
For sure. Yohendrick Pinango, your guy with the Cubs, South Bend in high A. Pinango, 29 games. He's slashing 340, 451, 610, 8 doubles, 5 homers, 19 driven in. How about in 122 plate appearances, 20 walks, and just 15 punch outs? So a 13% K rate. I've already expressed where my concern is on this show. You asked me what has to happen for me to be in on Yohendrick Pinango, and it's for him to do something really good in Tennessee. Yeah. Because like I think it's not easy what he's doing. By no stretch is it easy, but for me, it doesn't raise my eyebrows in his 3rd year in high A. It'll raise my eyebrows in AA.
Totally fair. And I think for what he can control right now, though, he's doing just about everything he can possibly do. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about an end zone contact rate of 89% and a 90th percentile of 107. This guy's hitting the living crap out of the ball. But as we talked about, he had some crazy data markers in the past. So I'm with you. Like it's going to be a wait and see once he does. And he doesn't need to do this in AA, but if he's got an 850 in double with good walk and strikeout numbers, then I think we're saying, okay, it's finally coming together. This guy just turned 22, which is what's working in his favor too. And so I think it's unfortunate in one side because it's like, I think he got pitted against himself a bit where he was playing so well at the lower levels that he got to high A quickly when he wasn't ready and then just got stuck there for so long that his prospect shine just kind of faded. And that's fine. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. If he performs, he's going to get a chance. But I think it created a very unique situation where we're talking about a guy that I think has had parts of 4 seasons in South Bend. So like that's crazy. But at the same time, you look at the swing, you look at what he's doing, you look at the swing decisions, and it's like, okay, this guy looks like he might have figured it out. But I'm with you. Until it's in AA, it's got to be taken with a grain of salt. That said, this is clearly the best version of Yohendrick Pinango we've seen as a pro.
Yeah. Happy belated, by the way, to Yohendrick. Last Tuesday turned 22 years old. So, yeah, happy belated, Yohendrick, and excited to see what you can do in what is it, Knoxville? I think it's Knoxville that Tennessee is in. The Smokies.
Okay.
I think it's Knoxville. I'm not
He's
sure.
got to be up there. It's got to be any week now. I mean, what are we doing?
It has to be. Has to be. Zach Veen, couple more hitters. Respect Zach Veen. And I'm not saying like, oh, finally we're talking about it, because we've mentioned it. 26 games. This guy is doing what I've begged from him for the last 2 years. Slashing 341, 434, 593, 4 doubles, 5 homers, 12 ribbies, 9 for 10 in the stolen base department in his first 26 games. He's healthy again, much like Jay Allen. This is what a healthy Zach Veen looks like, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's some things that may rear their head later in the season, some struggles with breaking balls. We talk about that with longer levered guys anyways, but he's catching up to velo better than he ever has. He's elevating more than he ever has. 108-mile-an-hour home run again this past week. Just when it's down, he's crushing balls. Another guy that's just 22. The swing decisions are as good as they've been. You're seeing him move as well as he has on the bases in a while. Yeah, he just looks healthy. And again, he may never be that plus hit and plus power guy that we thought could be like a 40-40 candidate out of the draft in terms of like if everything went right. But I think we're seeing a guy that is going to hit enough potentially, is leaning into more power. The speed is still there and looks like a really nice player. And as you keep waiting for him to maybe slow down, he just isn't. And he's doing it in a place that's not the easiest to hit in Hartford.
No. How long do you think he's going to be in Hartford?
I think for a little bit. The Rockies are unpredictable.
Like Romo's already in triple and like actually looks pretty good in AAA right now.
I know. I think his numbers would really tick up in triple with the way he's elevating. He's a slightly above average EVs guy, but I think it would really shine in AAA. I'd imagine they want him to kind of get his footing here a little bit longer. I'm gonna guess maybe end of June he gets the bump up to AAA. I mean, it kind of depends because there's a lot of bodies up there too, and back and forth from the big leagues as well. But I'll say sometime in June is my prediction.
Okay. Adael Amador over under $150 right now. What's he doing?
I didn't look. I mean, I'd like to say over, but I'm assuming by the way that the question was presented, it's under.
Slug over under $150.
No way, that's under.
He's slashing 138, 312, 149. 109 plate appearances, 1 extra base hit.
Yeah, I got to do a dive.
Like, damn, man.
I got to do a video dive. What the hell is that?
I have no idea.
I mean, it's at 25 games now. It's like, once we get to about 40 games, it's sound the alarms kind of thing.
Like, what?
It's a really, and I know he's dealt with like some hand stuff and the Hamm 8 and whatever. He's hit safely in the last 3, but he had a stretch. And we're talking about one of the best hit tools in the minor leagues. He had an 0 for 24 stretch with 9 punch outs. Is there a physical ailment? Is it mental? I'm gonna dive into a bunch of ABs and just watch because I haven't watched much of Amador this year.
Yeah. And
I feel like I need to because this has to be the biggest surprise to me on the negative side. Maybe just period.
I would think so.
Season. This is, and the contact rates are still good. So that's the weird part. I need to dive into it. Bizarre. I'd say this is one of the weirder things of the year.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else weirder. Like the surprise on the positive end is Jacob Wilson hitting 440 at this point. I think the surprise on the negative end is Adael Amador hitting 138 through his first 25 games.
107 from the left side too.
Oh, dude. Cannot be happening.
107 is crazy. Yeah, that's going to be a fun dive tonight. I'll look into that.
Okay. 2 more hitters real quick. Only guy that is in the top 50 prospects in baseball that we're talking about. James Wood has been too good to leave out of this conversation. 5 homer week, 35 games, slashing 346, 444, 581, 11 doubles, 7 homers, 23 driven in. He's 9 for 10 in the stolen base department as well. Davey Martinez, Christian Crespo did a great job again writing up minor league hitter and pitcher of the week. James Wood is the reigning minor league hitter of the week, and he noted a comment from Davey Martinez saying that Wood needs to have an elongated stay in AAA, and he needs to get a bunch of at-bats, end quote. Like, dude.
They said he needed to hit lefties, right? Like, he's got to hit lefties a little bit better.
I don't know.
That was that was a narrative too. I don't know if that came from the team or whatever. 2 homers this past week against lefties. I understand he wasn't great out of the gate, left on left, but it's just to show you how silly the small sample size thing is. With the 2 homers left on left, his OPS is now over 800 left on left.
There you go.
I think that explanation is so stupid. Like, and they used that for Jackson Holiday, and then he came up and struggled. It had nothing to do with whether it was left on left or right. It didn't matter. If lefty splits are the reason why you're not calling up a guy who's still running into balls left on left, he could never be good against lefties and still have a fruitful career, because he's going to run into home runs. You know he's still going to run into home runs left on left, and he's going to demolish righties. It's a justification that's silly. He could get up to the big leagues and go struggle. Who cares? He's not going to be worse than Joey Gallo, and they just don't want to start the clock. I get it. There's nothing else this guy has to prove other than maybe continuing to mash lefties, but you just did it. I literally have been, it's been like a bit almost where every time he has a crazy game, I just quote tweet it and say nothing left to prove. I'm just going to continue to say it. There's just nothing left to prove. And it's getting borderline. He's at the point where it's just kind of like borderline annoying to watch him just keep doing this in AAA. And I'd like to see him do it at the big league level. And I think there's a genuine case that he's in that now tier 1, with the top prospects in baseball. I think you could say he's right there with anybody with Absolutely. What he's now doing and the positional utility of being able to play all 3. And we'll see how the defense grades out. I think it's going to take some time, and he may end up just being a corner guy. But the fact that he can just plug in there, the approach being where it's at, the hit tool being where it's at, I mean, he's turned into a complete player.
Now, one of his 5 homers this past week came against a position player.
Yes.
I think that taking that into account, he should probably be down for another month or 2.
Yes.
Just to make sure that he can hit more pitcher homers.
Yes, I agree. Because if you take out that home run, his OPS drops to like 1,000.
Yeah. Tough feat. One more hitter that I want to go over before we wrap with pitchers quick. Chandler Simpson, and there are 2 numbers that matter to me with Chandler Simpson. It's on base percentage and stolen bases. On base percentage is .413. Stolen bases, 27 for 32 in 27 games. Chandler Simpson as a whole has 1 extra base hit in 123 plate appearances, but he's slashing .336, .413, .346. And again, he's 27 for 32. He's going to swipe 100 bases this year in minor league baseball. Hold me to that.
Do you know what his ISO is?
001.
009.
That's what 1 double in 123 plate appearances does for you.
The bat to ball is crazy, though. We're talking 95% in zone contact rate and overall contact rate of 90%. So he's slapping stuff outside of the zone, and out of zone contact rate of 78% is like off the charts. So yeah, he's not going to hit the ball hard, but he is going to put bat on almost anything and beat out almost anything. So I think if there's one person who can get up to the big leagues and survive with the lowest average exit velocity, it's Chandler Simpson. And he's been a lot of fun to watch.
Pitchers, I'll walk you through. Who is this Marlins guy? Aram, Emmett, Olson, 5 starts, 27 2/3, 13 hits, 1 run in 27 2/3. It's a .33 ERA, 30 punch outs, 8 walks. I've never heard of this guy.
Great command. I don't know a ton on the whole backstory, but it's been fun to just kind of see what he's doing. Slider's gross. Fastball has good enough characteristics in the low 90s as a lefty. He's 6'4", and he mixes in a changeup. I think this is a quality pitching prospect the Marlins have kind of developed yet again here, where I don't know if anything ever jumps off the page. I don't know if he's ever more than a back-end starter, but they might have a back-end starter here. And I mean, they need anything they can get from a prospect value perspective. And I mean, opponents have a 404 OPS against him. I think he just got promoted as well to high A a couple starts ago. I mean, he just can pitch. He's just a lefty who can pitch, and he's not even 22 yet.
Damn. All right. They were probably a bottom 5 farm system in baseball coming into this year. What are they at after the deadline? Do you think they're in the 15 to 20 range after the deadline?
Yes, I
Okay.
do. Because I think Thomas White continues to improve. He looks great. Noble Myers really started to settle in.
Yes, he
And
has.
then you already have the trade that I think is 3 of their best position player prospects. And then
Marcin
you also
Martorella. Yep.
and I mean Jazz has been swinging it. They're going to trade Tanner Scott. I do think it ends up in the top 15, maybe even close to the top 10 if Bendix does it right. And I have a lot of faith, and that's one thing that I know Bendix is going to do a good job of is, I think maximizing those prospect returns.
Are you going to hold the L on Vidal Brujan yet? He looks like a superstar.
I was asked if I would do that with Jesus Sanchez, and then I did, and then I ended up not needing to. So
I sent you the side
we'll see.
view. I sent you the side view of a Jesus Sanchez swing, and it looked like if I got in the box.
Yeah. He's just such a freak with the bat speed that even when he's totally fooled, he can just throw his hands at the ball and hit it hard enough. Which is going to be a whole conversation about the bat speed stuff on Savants and why it can be a little bit misleading. I think Jesus Sanchez is kind of one of those guys where when it's all on time, it's elite bat speed, but there's a lot of times where he's fooled and it's a half-hearted swing.
Yeah, tune into tomorrow's Just Baseball show for the bat speed conversation. That'll be a good one. Jonah Tong of the Mets. We've talked about Tong so much at this point, but he is the other guy. He is the co-leader among qualified starters in ERA as it stands right now. 27 2/3, 1 earned run. That's the share with Emmett, Olson. 47 punch-outs and 12 walks in 27 2/3. What has Tong done so far in high A?
2 starts there, 9 innings, 1 earned run, 3 runs, but only 1 was earned. 7 walks is the thing that was interesting to me. So, all right, are you not trusting the heater as much? The velo also kind of has tapered down a tad, where he's averaging more 91.5 instead of the 93 that he was averaging a couple starts prior.
No, it's been colder. He was in Florida to open the year. Now he's in New York.
Now he's in Brooklyn, and it's been cold when I've been there. So I think those are definitely things to monitor. But he's still 11 punchies in those 9 innings for the most part, keeping runs off the board. I think he's just continued to look solid. But those are some things to monitor. See if he can hold the velo as the rest of the season goes. But clearly, just the angles that he's creating are going to get him whiffs no matter what.
What you know about this guy Jaden Hamm in Detroit? Jaden Hamm is a West Michigan Whitecap. He was a 5th-round pick last year out of, I think, Middle Tennessee State. Jaden Hamm has made 7 starts with high A West Michigan, 28 2/3, 23 hits, 3 earned. In 28 2/3 innings, he's got 43 punch-outs and 4 walks. What's the word with him?
Yeah, we probably overlooked him in the Tigers top prospect breakdown. That one's on me because he, from a data perspective, is really unique. It's a high release. And that's why we always talk about if you have IVB without the release height, it's you only have half the equation there. And a 6'5" release, like your IVB's got to be quite high to really stand out from there. He's averaging 21.5 inches of induced vertical break.
Wow.
I don't care if you're releasing from like 20 feet high. That's crazy. So crazy ride on the fastball, even though it's more in the low 90s with 21.5 inches of IVB, like that's going to play. And that's why Hamm is just the fastball has been performing great. 26% in zone whiff rate. Opponents are hitting 211 against it. And that's really set up downer curveball changeup guy. So he likes to go north south and he's doing it really well. I think he's legit. I think that was a big miss by me, honestly. He's been really impressive, and it wasn't really until after we went through the Tiger system that started to key in on a couple starts. And when you have that fastball and then you got 3 secondaries that tunnel off of it, Hamm's only 21. There's a lot to like there.
Yeah, I just tuned into it was on Saturday, I want to say. After Skenes came out, I tuned into West Michigan Fort Wayne, which was Lesko and Hamm. And I was like, one of these guys is performing better than the other. And it ain't Lesko. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. Slow start for Lesko and Ethan Salas, by the way, in Fort Wayne, but can't be worried yet. We're, again, a month in. Another guy, Samuel Aldegheri, high A with the Phillies. Aldegheri is from Verona, Italy. So Mr. Italiano came over, threw at the complex in 21, got off for 12 1/3 innings with Clearwater. Then in 22, I think was banged up, 12 1/3 at the complex. Last year, most of the year in low A Clearwater, then he finishes in high A. And so far this year in high A, Aldegheri in 28 innings has allowed 2 earned runs, 10 hits in 28 innings, 35 punch outs, 11 walks. 21-year-old in high A, but like, is this a guy that can climb a little bit? Or is this a guy that can get them a decent reliever back at the deadline, whatever the Phillies need?
Yeah, probably a trade chip, right?
Yeah, it seems like a trade chip out of nowhere.
I think kind of a polished lefty that's just out pitching the competition because he's, a little bit more advanced. But I do think that there's ingredients here for just a kind of that pitchability back end of the rotation lefty. And when you got fastball, slider, change, and a curve that he'll mix in there, and he's commanding all of them, and they're all getting decent swing and miss numbers, like, yeah, I think that they might have something here. And if they do, it's probably gone at the deadline. So this may be a trade chip for them, but I think so far you got to look at the stuff and say it's probably big league average across the board, but with some pitchability. And I think the slider that flashes above average could be a back end starter.
That gets you a setup guy. Go get yourself a setup guy, folks. Why not? How you Lee all over again. Easy. Daniel Zebulon Matthews, otherwise known as Zebby Matthews. I love that. Daniel Zebulon, but he goes by Zebby. Zebby Matthews is a 23-year-old, about to turn 24, 6'5", 225, Western Carolina, teammates with Justice Bigby at Western Carolina, I think. 8th round pick by Minnesota in 22. Zebby Matthews at this point made 4 starts with Cedar Rapids, 1 with AA Wichita. 29 and a third, 20 hits, 4 earned runs, 37 Ks. How many walks?
0.
0 walks for Zebby Matthews. The whip sits at 0.68.
Dude,
wow.
I'm buying it. So first of all, I mentioned Zebby Matthews in the recap video on YouTube. The only other pitchers that have no walks so far this season have thrown 8 innings. So no one has thrown more than 8 innings with 0 walks. And Zebby Matthews has thrown 29 and a third with 0 walks.
Yep.
He was lauded for the pitchability. That's why he was drafted. Then he sees his fastball tick up 2 ticks, slider 2 ticks, cutter 2 ticks. All those pitches were fine, but he has good characteristics on the fastball. So now instead of 93, it's 95, 96. Slider, that a slider from the low 80s to the mid 80s is always going to play better. And then a hard cutter that's been a great pitch for him. Instead of 87, is now 90 to 91. It's night and day. And he's still the same guy command-wise. It's 75% strike rate on the fastball, 78% strike rate on the cutter. Like, good luck. And I think this is for real, man. Like, hopefully he stays healthy with such a big uptick, but this is for real. And I'm not saying he's going to be like a frontline guy, but clearly with the uptick, the pitchability, the 3 pitches, this is a big league starter, I think, if he continues this. And I think seeing him do it right away into AA is amazing. And the fact that he has not walked somebody, I don't know. I can't tell you the last time I've seen this. 30 strikeouts, no walks. What Job did last year was nuts, but I don't know if I've ever seen something like this with 0 walks.
No, I saw this on MLB The Show 15. Jack McMullen was like 100 Ks, no walks. It was sick.
Yeah, you're not wasting any chase pitches or anything.
No, I think I was on beginner mode and Road to the Show. That's the only time that I've seen this. This guy threw 105 innings last year between low and high A, 137 and 2/3 minor league innings, 155 punch outs, 15 walks.
And they're all last year.
112 to 15. Like, that's got to be one of the best strikeout to walk rates that we had in minor league baseball last year. That's 9.6. No, pardon. That's 7.5 strikeouts to walks. Now cannot compute because he's punching out 11.5 per 9 and he has yet to walk a hitter. I mean, this is crazy. You never see something like this, especially in this era of baseball. We're like, oh, we're praising the fastball tick up. Oh, by the way, he's never spraying it literally ever.
So he's walking the first batter in the next outing, by the way. You know that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as we acknowledge it, he's walking the first 2.
Because I would say I want to be on watch. I want to see if he can get to 50. If he gets to 50, I want a graphic. I'm going to hit up a graphic, guys. Like, we need a Zebulon Matthews graphic, 50 Ks, no walks. And this is one of those stats where, like, I can't track it back, but I would confidently just be like, I don't know, but I'm going to say no one's ever done this before, and we're just going to run with it. Yeah. I think I'm just going to run with it. First pitcher in minor league history with 50 Ks, no walks to start the season.
Hasn't been done since.
I have no way to check it. I don't think anybody else does. there might be some psycho in my replies like, oh, well, actually, that's fine. I hope that happens because I've been wondering if anybody else has done it. So I might just lie about that stat and see what happens.
You asked me if the portal had that. It's like, hey, can you tell me the last time somebody went like 29 and third with no walks? I'm like, no, dude, the portal can't like cure diseases. I'm sorry.
I thought it could.
No, can't cure diseases. All I can do is just spit out the best players in minor league baseball over the last week. 2 more pitchers that we got to talk about. Hunter Barco with the Pirates. We talked about Barco after spring breakout. He was really impressive at spring breakout. And what this guy has done in Greensboro has been mighty impressive. Whip under 1 through his first 7 starts. 27 and a third, 18 hits, 5 earned, 34 punch-outs, 8 walks. This guy can move quickly, man. He's got to get to Altoona and join Bubba Chandler, Thomas Harrington, who's now healthy, and Harrington looked good in his Double-A debut. Join Anthony Solomito, join Ashcraft. If you can run out a 5-man rotation in Double-A of Chandler, Barco, Solomito, Ashcraft, Harrington, and you've got Skenes and Jared Jones at the big club, I mean, come on.
Who's better organizationally than that, pitching-wise?
Nobody. And, like, you got to remember that Mike Burrows is coming back this year from TJ. Like, they are set up for success.
I watched Xander Mueth throw the other day.
Interesting.
Complex. It's fascinating. He's sitting 95. I talked about him on the subscription episode. I did a whole complex dive. And, I mean, there's upside there, so just add him to the equation as well.
And Shim when he's healthy.
Matoma, Dave, there's no one's got more talent pitching wise right now. I definitely agree with that. Only thing I'll add on Barco is fastball velocity's back, command's back. Happens. Take some time off of TJ. 71% strike rate on the fastball, filling up the zone. Slider's gross, and you can see he's just confident and feels like Hunter Barco again.
Yeah. Last guy, Owen Murphy, and I know that we've talked about Owen Murphy a good bit. 6 starts with high A Rome. He's been in high A the entire time. Owen Murphy. 34 and 2/3 innings, 7 earned on 15 hits in 34 and 2/3, 49 punch-outs, 12 walks. Is Murphy top 100 at the midseason update?
He's damn close. He's damn close because it's a Christian Javier type of fastball. And then the slider is also not far off. He's filling up the zone a ton with both and really locating that fastball so much better now. It's a lot of reliance on it, but at the same time, when you have those kind of characteristics, it's, I mean, how do you not rely on that much? 65% usage, but doesn't really matter. No one can get on top of him. A lot of weak fly balls, a lot of swings and misses. Murphy's a dude. 20 years old, doing what he's doing. I think this is a guy that probably could get to Double-A pretty quickly too, with the way the Braves like to do things. And I think he's come down to earth a bit more in high A over the last couple starts, but overall, it's really hard to argue against the results.
Yeah, that's what I got for you, man.
That'll do it. We got a fun week ahead. We're going to do another farm system at some point. We actually have a mailbag also, and Jackson Jobe will be joining us again on the show. Very excited about that. He's going to give us a little bit of an update on how the Hammy's doing. I just can't wait to ask him about what the hell that sorcery was that he did in big league spring training. I think I'm literally just going to ask him just like that because it's the craziest thing I'd seen in a while. And then his Arizona Fall League experience, the slow start. I want to hear a little bit of his perspective on the slow start because up until the Hammy tweak, 13 no-hit innings. Yeah, so it would be interesting to see. Clearly something clicked there, and he was rolling. So it'll be fun to talk to him later this week as well. Keep an eye out for that. That'll do it for today's episode. We'll talk prospects with you tomorrow. Keep an eye out for the mailbag post to ask some of your questions to make sure that gets featured.
It's already out. Go to the social media accounts.
There you go. Check it out.